welcome in everybody to another episode of the Brett Allen Show, where we interview your favorite actors and celebrities from film, television, music, comedy, and more. And today we are chatting with acclaimed actor, veteran actor, and now author William B. Davis. You would know him as the cigarette smoking man on TV's The X-Files. And he has the new book that we're going to talk about, which is fantastic, on acting and life, part memoir, part masterclass. Thanks for your time and for hanging out with us this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, this is a lot of fun. I mean, if anybody's watching and listening and has not seen The X-Files, I think there's literally everywhere you can watch it. I mean, I don't know that it's not available to stream and watch. But let's talk about that, because you've been a part of a lot of great projects. But I have to ask, is this something that you get recognized the most for, or are there other projects and things that you've done?
No, I would have to say, I mean, X-Files had had the widest reach and the longest life of anything that I've done. So yes, that's certainly the most visible. Although there's lots of other stuff there. We're just starting to shoot season 3 of Upload as we speak. So
okay,
yeah,
that's another great show. We've had several cast on from that, and you are a part of that show. So that's great that that's now happening. But let's talk about this book, because really I had a chance to read it, and I find it all very fascinating, because there are a lot of books on acting that people can read and that world that you're a part of can take advantage of. But this is a little bit different, because, you know, it's broken up into sections where you take people on the journey with you, and sort of how you began this business at a very young age. I think even age 12, I believe the book says, where you were going to your very first acting class. How did this even become interesting to you at age 12? Because I remember when I was 12 and I didn't have such high aspirations for my life at the time.
Well, it was quite accidental, to be candid. My cousins, who were a half generation older than I, ran a summer theater company in Ontario.
Okay.
And we lived in Toronto, and they needed a place to rehearse before they went north for the summer. So as it happens, they rehearsed in our basement. And as it happens, they were doing a play in their second season called Portrait in Black, and they needed an 11-year-old boy. And as it happens, I was handy. So boom, I got thrown on stage, and had a good success with that, and thought, oh, this is fun. Let's do some more of this. So then I found this acting teacher, who then connected me to CBC radio drama.
Okay.
Radio drama being where it was at in those late 1940s, early 50s. And I started to work as a child actor, and that was the beginning.
Yeah, it's very fascinating, because you've had such a fulfilling and eclectic career out of all the things you've done. So what was that first conversation like with your parents when you sort of told them, this is something that I'm interested in and that I want to pursue? I'm curious. I always like to ask how those conversations go, because sometimes it's supportive and sometimes it's like, what are you thinking?
I'm not even sure how much conversation there was. They were very, very supportive. I mean, they were very eager to have me do what I wanted to do, but they were definitely not stage mothers or stage fathers. They definitely were not pushing me in that direction. They were just simply trying to make it available for me if that's what I wanted to do. I encountered some serious stage mothers in my child acting life, but my mother and my father were not like that. My father was a lawyer, and he was actually the lawyer for this theater company as well. So he had an interest in the profession from that point of view. And my mother was just very, very open to whatever I wanted to do. So they made it easy for me, but they didn't didn't push me, they didn't discourage me. Um, they let me run with it to see where I went.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's interesting. It's funny you say about the stage mothers and things like that. I'm sure that they're, I mean, that's still momagers, they call them now, mom managers, where they are trying to get their child first.
We had one. We were shooting. Actually, shooting's maybe not the right word. We were recording a drama, and this actor, this young actor, was not playing the lead. He usually played the lead, and his mother came tearing through the theater in a towering rage. They had to hide me in a room and protect me because she was just gone. She was just gone. It was a dangerous moment, and the poor guy, the poor kid, Roger Newman, he was is. I don't know if he worked again after that, so it didn't do him any good.
No, I don't think it would. And you've just had such a colorful journey. You've worked with amazing people and you share these stories throughout this book. And really, to me, it seems like, you know, the overarching theme to this book that you've written is not just, you know, helping actors become better at their craft, but really taking, you know, your personal stories and your personal experiences and really putting them in sort of the scope where if an actor, whether no matter where they're at in the trajectory of their career, can learn something, right? That's sort of the idea.
Even more than that, I'm finding a lot of readers who aren't actors, but they're interested in acting. I mean,
Yeah.
so many people are because we watch actors all the time. What is it that we do, and how do we do it, and who are we? Uh, and yes, my personal story was so extraordinary. I went into so many places, and as you say, worked with so many different theater companies and different people at an early age, and so on. So that was an extraordinary trip in itself, which people have enjoyed reading. But it's also a 70-year exploration of the craft of acting. And what did I learn? How did I learn? What do we know about it? What is new about it, even that's different from what it was 20 years ago, 50 years ago?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things too that I found fascinating about this is really, you know, having such a large span and career. You've done something that is pretty remarkable, I think, for somebody in your craft. You've evolved over time, like you mentioned, you're working on Upload now, and then of course the X Files, and then just a lot of different things. Um, there's a lot of vulnerability too in this book, just sharing very personal stories and accounts about your life. Um, Interestingly enough, you know, I just kind of going through this. I mean, I even though I'm not an actor, but I do find myself connecting with you and sort of your life and talking about all of these different things that you've done. Is it hard as a because a lot of times we have this persona or picture of actors, you know, where they're guarded and protected, and it's not easy for them to be vulnerable. Is it easy but that vulnerability is kind of part of that skill set in a way, I guess. So
Yeah, I think an actor has to be vulnerable. I mean, it's one of the things we kind of talk about in training actors. I mean, it's a kind of a tough thing because we're sending actors out
yeah,
into a very dangerous or challenging profession with many risks, and yet we're sending them out with this vulnerability because they need that vulnerability to be able to do the work.
right.
Um, I've been fortunate that I haven't had I've, I've had a lot of things work out for me. So, but yeah, I'm candid. I'm a little too self-effacing. My wife sometimes gives me a hard time for that. She says, "No, don't say that about yourself. You're the best." You know. But no, I admit my struggles, and that's part of the story of the book, of course.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And I just again I think as a whole encompassing thing, you know, it kind of brings people into the space where they can look at this and go, okay, it's perfectly normal to struggle. It's perfectly normal to have challenges. interesting question here. So if you were to look at when you got started versus how people get started today, um I wouldn't say would you do anything differently, but sort of looking at your life as a whole, and then, again, some of the things you share in this book, what advice would you give yourself, like if 12-year-old you existed today and came to you for
Wow.
advice,
Wow.
what would you say to him?
That's such a question because the business has so changed. I mean, when
Yeah,
I started, there was a little bit of theater and a lot of radio drama. And now there's still a little bit of theater, but a lot of film and television, and a lot of opportunities to have a bigger impact when you're young than I had. I mean, I had opportunities to work, but I didn't have opportunities to make a name for myself or to
got
become
it.
a household word as a world word as a young actor. Um, but what I basically say when I'm asked that question is what's important is that you want to act,
Yeah,
that you want to do that. If that's what you want to do, then get good training, search out good opportunities, and do it. Um, who knows what will happen? You might become a star. You might win an Oscar. You might never be in a bit major film. You might spend your life doing community theater and having a great time doing that. But the important thing is that you like to do it, that you get satisfaction from the craft itself.
yeah,
Too often, I think people are led towards fame and celebrity and are looking in the wrong place and are looking to kind of jumpstart. I mean, if you were an athlete, you wouldn't expect to go from learning how to skate to suddenly being a hockey star. You
yeah.
know, you have a process to go through. Well, so does an actor.
Yeah, I mean, there really are no shortcuts to the. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess there could be, like the odds of somebody being plucked out of obscurity and being put on a national platform is happens, but really the percentage of people who go into this industry and have success, is very, very small. You know what I mean? Like it's a very small, minute
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah.
And even in the last couple of years, I was talking to people, if they had started like when this whole madness started, they'd probably pack up and drive back home, to wherever they're from because it's so competitive. But you've had an extensive and fantastic career. The X-Men, the nemesis, the smoking nemesis, the man that existed in this series for seasons upon seasons, and we knew. How did that come about for you? What was that story like as far as having those conversations and being approached? Was it something that you knew was going to be long term and reoccurring, or how did that happen?
None of the above. None of the above. I was working in Vancouver. I was running my theater school. I was directing a play at the time, and I auditioned for this role in this pilot called The X-Files. And I auditioned for a part that had 3 lines. I did not get that part. I got this part with no lines. Well, what the heck? It was a gig. I was being paid. So fine. Okay. I did that. There were no conversations. Nobody told me who I was or what I was doing or why I was there. So I was just figuring out a backstory for myself and carrying on. As far as I knew, that was it. First of all, I thought a show about alien abduction was not going anywhere anyway. So what do I know? I'm glad I don't invest in these things. But it did, of course, as we know, get picked up, and they brought me back later in the first season to just do a little bit of kind of background or maybe a line here or there, not too much. But everybody got interested in this character, and the fans got interested in this
Yeah.
character. And suddenly, in season 2, the writers wrote this big scene for me in an episode called One Breath, and my friend Bob Goodwin, who was a producer at the time, he was not my friend at the time, I didn't know him at the time, said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? We don't know if Bill Davis can act." So there was much consternation about that, and he directed that episode. And as soon as we started to work, he went, he can act. Great. Exactly. And then everyone got more interested in the character. The authors got more interested. Chris Carter got more interested. The fans got more interested. They started to develop the character. There was still no conversations. Still nobody said, oh, he's this character, or this is going on, or this is the backstory. We just got scripts and then we worked on them and made them work, made them come to life.
Wow. Yeah, so fascinating. And that is one show of a handful that has really stood the test of time and the popularity of it, and multiple, extensions of it, and not reboots, but movies, and all just very fascinating. I think people are just obsessed with that world. And there hasn't been a show since like it. Again, talking about the book, William B. Davis on Acting in Life, it's a great story. And I think, as you mentioned, you don't have to be an actor to read it necessarily, even if you think about it and you're interested. I highly recommend people checking it out, and we'll make sure we can link it in the show notes. One last question, sort of all of this encompassed together, if there was one takeaway, one soundbite that you hope readers get from the book, what would that be?
That it's like any other activity, really, in that it's a skill, it's an art form, but like any other activity, also, it does require talent to be really successful.
Yeah.
You can do everything that Connor McDavid did, but you won't be Connor McDavid unless you're Connor McDavid. So there is always a level of talent that creates a spark, but the work is so interesting. You learn so much about humans, and that's really what kept me in it all this time, is trying to figure out why we do what we do.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, William, for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for having me. Great.